What's up, guys? It's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I figured I'd go through the playoff matchups that, like I had said multiple times during the season when I did our brackets, and like I said, our last week of the season, last couple weeks, as far as who we thought was going to get, and worked out pretty good, which is nice because we've had some time to think about these matchups. But I'd gone into it a million times. Once it's official, we'll pick the exact winners and losers, and again, probably Thursday, Friday. I'm going to be going, I think the Texans game's first, so I thought it'd be fun to go live for that game. It's going to be one slobber knocker of a game, but I always put out exact covers and things like that a couple days before the game. Uh, Last week it was pretty close to the game, but I think it was Saturday and Friday for Saturday and Saturday for Sunday. Sometimes I'll do my best to drop them early on the membership channels, typically Tuesday, Wednesday, but with these covers, it is better to wait, I think, closer to the game. Unless you can get a line that's moving. Of course, you never know which way it's going to go. But I wanted to just cover who I think is going to win, and we're going to cover the entire playoffs and what matchups I think we're going to get. And off the bat, there's one matchup I love, and a lot of people probably like it as well. And there's only one way it can happen, so I love that. So we got the NFC side, and I think the NFC is the shot we could get at the upset. And technically, yeah, I don't see an upset in the AFC, and I'm going to go into why in a second. Well, at least not in the first round. The NFC, I could see it. To me, it would be a very Dallas-like thing to do, to lose to Green Bay. You can see this would set up Philly. Pretty good matchups. Green Bay, San Francisco would be a pretty good matchup. You could say maybe they wouldn't push Green Bay that far, and it wouldn't be the four that everybody expects. As you can see, this gives me what I thought we were going to get: our Eagles-Niners rematch, as well as Lions Cowboys, just because there's two nice rivalries there. Sure, the Bucks could win; that could be our upset, and it's basically the same thing. The only difference is it'd be Bucks versus the Niners, which is an interesting connection. Brady's favorite team. I know a lot of people talked about Brady. Purdy's basically the new Brady, so you could see that, and it is a suspicious line. So there's a lot of different options. Anyway, for now we'll just leave it on the favorites, and then I'll go into it. I'm going to cover the AFC first. So first we got Bills and Steelers, and I think everybody agrees on this one. It's a 10-point spread, by the way, so not much can be made on spreads as far as this game goes. You might have a cover. I don't know exactly where the public's going to be. That's why, like I said, this is just going to be the winner. And I can't imagine the Bills don't win this game. There's no way. Again, I could buy Baker. I could even buy Love. I can't buy Mason Rudolph. I understand that the team is based off of the defense and the coaching, but that's only going to get them so far. I think a first-round elimination makes perfect sense. I know people brought up to me that they're wooing Fields. Someone else brought up to me that Russell wants to go there, play with Tomlin. So there's a couple things that they can do. All the Steelers need to do is pick up a decent quarterback. And I think next year going into the postseason, they'll be pushed much more like the Lions, much more like the Texans. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately, and we'll get into next year when we get into it. My point is, they might have Watt Superman his way through this. I think it's a fake injury, just like Mahomes did. But there's no way they're going to be able to have people believe this guy is like a menace and just stopping games by himself with the sprained MCL. So, yeah, Bills pretty. To me, it's given away by the Vegas line, and I just think the Bills win. Now, Dolphins-Chiefs is interesting. You could have Chiefs get bumped in the first round, right? I don't think that's going to happen. But we can look at the scenarios if that does happen. If the Browns were to hold, we would get Dolphins-Ravens, an interesting matchup. Obviously, it just happened not that long ago, so I don't see why that would make sense. But, of course, a lot of these matchups already happened. Browns-Bills, pretty cool connection there. And then if the Dolphins win, the Texans win. Again, decent matchups, but we just saw one of them. The other one's a decent matchup. It's going to be, but I don't think it makes much sense I think you definitely have the Chiefs advance here. There's too much of a story to be told, and that leaves that. And I'm going to go into the third one in a second. I do think people keep bringing up Hill to me, and I think he is going to have a good game. I think he's going to do well, so they can establish the narrative that, man, if Mahomes had Hill, it would be game over. But his receivers are doing bad. So this is a game where I would like the Mahomes rushing prop. I usually do terrible props, but I think we're going to see a lot of Superman action from Patrick Mahomes here. It just makes sense to me that that's what we see. Again, the Chiefs, they're always going to have public money on them. So wherever the money's at, I'm not positive. It was a 3.5 and moved to 4. So this might be one to get in before it might move to like 4.5, 5. Typically, they don't swing back the other way. Again, I'm going to do all the official covers in a video anyway, but right now I would definitely say, I think it would be a good time to get the Chiefs cover because it could move. Although, I don't think it's going to move anything crazy, to be honest. But yeah, I just think the Chiefs here definitely are going to win in advance. And that leaves Texans-Browns, so we could get the upset, as it stands right now, the only upset. And it would be nice, again, you'd have Texans-Ravens. I think that's a rematch of Week 1. And, of course, Bills-Chiefs. That's your Brady, Manning. That's what we knew we were almost positive, I'll say, we were going to get that all year long. And if not, if it's the Browns that win, things get a lot more interesting. ESPN's little spoiler comes true, where they put out, twice, I said this a couple times, a week ago, they didn't retweet, they screenshotted a tweet from Twitter, put it on their YouTube, of an individual saying, I'm a Ravens fan, and I'm already having nightmares about the prospect of playing Joe Flacco. So to me, that makes perfect sense. Joe plays one of his former teams, and it's just a beautiful match. Two beautiful matchups, Chiefs, Bills, and then Flacco versus Lamar. So that's what I think we're going to get in the AFC side. And let's run over the NFC side. Now, again, you could get Rams, sure. I just don't think it makes sense. We're definitely not going to get Rams-Niners again. The same reason we knew the Bills were winning. It's the same deal. They're not going to give us Rams-Niners. If it's two really good division teams, like as you can see, I do have Ravens-Browns, but it's a little different because the Ravens and Browns, I don't believe Flacco's played the Ravens yet this year. So it's a lot different. It's not like it's the same guys playing. And it's not like one of these teams is garbage. People know the Rams are basically garbage. And I know a few people are saying they're seeing some signs for the Rams winning, but it makes much more sense to me that they put over the Lions. So I love the Lions in this game. So again, the money line parlays might be the way to go. It was definitely the way to go week 18. We covered all of our winners anyway, and we got some underdogs. But here, with Chiefs, you might have a win, no cover. You never know. So doing like Chiefs, Browns, Lions, I think is a beautiful 3-teamer. Just something along those lines. Again, Packers, Cowboys. It would be the most Cowboy thing ever to lose in the first round. And then you can see I think that matchup does make sense. I'm not going to lie. I think Packers, Niners is another one where it's kind of old school. Packers, Cowboys, Niners. These teams ran the NFC for such a long time. So it's almost like a modern retro type deal. And then again, if it's Cowboys, Bucks, which would be all home teams outside of one, which I guess we could get, then we're getting Niners, Bucks, which is, again, an interesting matchup. I don't believe in the Brady connection quite enough, I don't think. And we'd get Cowboys, Lions. And again, the Cowboys, Lions is the important one. I think we're definitely going to get that again after what we saw in Week 18. That's a rematch that makes perfect sense. There's certain rematches that make sense. And then if the Eagles win, it's going to be Eagles-Niners. So it really comes down to the Vegas spread. It's a very, very suspicious line. The Bucks are only getting 2.5 points. So I know a lot of people like this matchup right here, Bucks to advance, and that would be our one big upset. I personally think they're going to keep the Eagles in it. I think, the Hurts quote injury is again, I think it's setting up. If you remember last year, Purdy was hurt against the Eagles. It's a perfectly bittersweet rematch in my opinion, and I think that's what we're going to get. So I do understand it's a trap line. Again, I think certain games they will pay out the public. The Eagles are coming off two tough losses. So if there's going to be a time people fade them, I feel like it would be now. I see a lot of comments saying the Eagles are just straight up garbage. Again, half of them are saying it's scripted. This is in the ESPN's post. But a good half of them, not half, but I mean, wherever the Eagles are being mentioned or they're talking about the NFC, a lot of the consensus is the Eagles are just overrated. So whether real or scripted, there's a bunch of people that aren't too hot on the Eagles. I think they're going to put them in the next round. I know it's the four teams everybody expects, so it might be a little obvious. But again, I know we're getting three of them. There's no way that we don't get at least three of them. And of course, we're going to get the Niners. That's a lock. But I just think this matchup makes way more sense, and they've been anything but subtle coming to booking these matchups. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to predict exactly how they were going to fall. So anyway, that puts us in the divisional round. We would then have Browns, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs. And again, it's the two winners play each other, so nothing crazy there. And I'm sticking with the Ravens. There's just, too many reasons I like the Ravens. I know they said they changed the Super Bowl logo, which is fine. That could be for a plethora of reasons, but I just like the Ravens. I've liked them all year. With Michigan winning, I like them even more, to be quite honest. And I don't think they would push. The Joe Flacco story is nice. I think it's going to run its course. I don't think they're going to put him in the AFC Championship. I do know there's that prospect of Flacco playing the Niners again with a different team. I just personally like the Ravens. I know people think it's obvious, but again, some of these matchups, we're getting, Chiefs Dolphins and Chiefs Bills most probably. They've been obvious from the get-go. And then we got Chiefs Bills. And it just, again, of course people are going to like these teams because they're good teams. They've been pushed as Super Bowl contenders, Super Bowl winners. But I know a lot of people saying Baltimore-Buffalo makes sense. It would be a redemption game where the Ravens lost like 3 years ago to the Bills. That was the last time they played in the playoffs, I believe. Or it could be Lamar versus Patrick. And again, they're both very appealing. I do think just because the Chiefs need to have some kind of disappointing season, and losing in the AFC Championship is hardly a disappointing season. I think this is where the Bills do beat them. So I do have the Bills advancing to the conference championship. Now, again, Bills are an interesting one. I went since the beginning of the year with the Bills, how if they were then a matchup with the Niners, we would have the gold versus the dollar bill. But again, I don't believe in it enough. Another one that people brought to my attention is, and that's why they like the Cowboys, Chiefs-Cowboys, and that would be Cowboys versus Indians. So just two interesting narratives. But again, I try and keep them realistic, and not that they're not realistic, but I try and just look at everything. And I think Bills-Ravens is a strong matchup. And, you push Josh Allen because, again, he hasn't really done much. Get him to the AFC Championship. And I think he's going to be a perennial loser. And he's going to be like Manning, where he'll probably get a Super Bowl for sure. I just think he's going to continuously lose in the AFC Championship game, at least way more than he wins. But we'll go into that in a second. Of course, the Chiefs could win. This is definitely a draw, too. And I suppose the Browns could win. I just don't think it'll happen. I think this is what we're going to get. NFC side, of course, I got the Niners beating the Eagles. I think they're going to beat them in this rematch, get themselves back to the conference championship. It just seems like that's where everything's headed. Purdy will get his vengeance, I think. Again, not too many people are probably going to, even if, people aren't sold on the Eagles, I think they're going to have Purdy maybe not look too great in this game, maybe look all right, just to establish again, if it wasn't for this guy and that guy and their tremendous defense, they'd be in trouble. So he might not. I'm not loving Purdy's props in this game, but I'm just liking the Niners to win. And then that gives us Niners-Cowboys or Niners-Lions. And honestly, I do think and for a while, I wasn't sure. But at the beginning of the season, I did say it was totally possible. And I do still think it is. I think the Lions are going to get to the NFC Championship. I believe it'd be the first time in history. Again, it's a great story. Lions, it's the ultimate underdogs here. And I don't see them wasting. You got the Browns and the Lions. I just don't see them wasting that on an early elimination. because next year the Bears are going to be pretty stacked. I'm not sure this Lions run's going to last that long, so I think it's going to be almost like a one-off. So you might as well get them in, as far into the playoffs as you can. And I think people would much prefer seeing Lions Niners than Cowboys Niners. I could be wrong. It just we did see Cowboys Niners not that long ago, and again we're going to get rematches. And I don't think the Lions played the Niners. I could be wrong, but to me it's just a great matchup. It's two opposites. You have the experienced team with like the very old school coaching mentality, and then you got crazy Dan Campbell and the Lions, who are just always going to be pushed as underdogs. So I love Lions Niners, and I love Bills Ravens. And it's probably no shocker at this point. Of course, if I have them going this far, I do think that they're going to close it out. And for the first time in probably a while, we're going to have, because I think the Chiefs were the second seed last year. I believe they were the second seed. The Eagles were the first seed. So I'm not sure the last time we had two first seeds go to the Super Bowl, but it'd be interesting. And again, I have thought about the Bill and Gold. It's a very interesting dynamic in a political year. But I think it's going to be the Ravens and the Niners. Again, the Niners are the one I am more committed on. So, if there was a gun to my head and I had to pick the AFC or the NFC, I would pick the NFC because I just have a feeling the Niners are definitely doing it. And I like the Ravens, but all year long I've said, well, as much as I like them, there's other teams that I feel like have stories. I just don't think that's the case for the NFC. Everyone's got stories, but not like the Niners. So the Bill Gold is very interesting, but I think it's going to be finally Lamar's year to get there. They're showing him his love. Just because he got MVP doesn't mean he can't get to the Super Bowl as well. And I think that's why it makes perfect sense for the Niners to win. They can explain why. Oh, it's a spoiler. They can explain why, in my opinion, maybe Purdy should have won MVP, even though obviously Lamar had a better year. Or maybe Christian McCaffrey should have won it. And again, this matchup is just funny to think about. You have Purdy, who's just like a fan out there, is a complete average Joe. And then you have Lamar Jackson, who is just like the number one guy you'd pick in Madden because he's athletic, he can throw the ball better. It's a complete, he was a much higher draft pick, of course, MVP. So to me, this is a perfect way to push Mr. Irrelevant by having him win a Super Bowl against, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL this year. And that's why I absolutely love the 49ers to win the Super Bowl, beat the Ravens, and this is my official prediction. So like I said, I'll go into all the games this week, and we'll be covering each week by week, covering the over-unders, the spreads. But I did want to get out just my official prediction of every single pick. Some of the sports books will, have the perfect parlay. Mine offers it where you can pick all the matchups to the Super Bowl. So if all these picks hit, that'd be nice, obviously. But yeah, you can enter one of those contests, and you never know. But I think this is how it's going to happen. And the only way to get Ravens Browns is for this order. The Steelers can't win, the Dolphins can't win. So, because the Ravens are going to play the lowest seed, or the highest seed, whatever you want to call it, the worst seed. So, as the 5 seed, there's only 2 seeds, the 6 and 7. Only the Dolphins and Steelers could usurp that spot from the Browns and play the Ravens. And I just don't think we're definitely not seeing Ravens Steelers. I think we can all agree on that. And then are we going to see Ravens Dolphins again? So again, using WWE logic, I think Bills Browns Chiefs is definitely what we're getting. And then on the NFC side, Cowboys Lions, and the Eagles is the closest one. As you can see, I'm not sold on the Eagles. I could see the Bucks winning. I think we're going to get Eagles Niners rematch. And again, I'll go into all the covers and all that stuff in the next couple days. But I wanted to get this out I know a lot of people have been requesting me to do the playoffs, and I've done my best. I've done a few videos. Basically, not for each team, I basically went into a separate video going into the playoffs, why I liked them, why I didn't. Did a couple going into the final couple weeks of my predictions. And again, we did a good job picking that. So hopefully this is what winds up happening. And again, I think it's not much different. All year long, I've loved the Niners. I don't know what it is. It just seems like it's their year. So you never know. They could pull the rug on us, send the Lions to the Super Bowl. You don't know. But I do think these matchups make the most sense and are definitely very close to what we're going to get. So take care and happy earnings.